Namaste and welcome. I hope you guys have been doing well. I'm back with another video about the annual predictions for the year 2026 and beyond. Now, 2026 will start with looking at the key planetary aspects and the transits which are going to take place this year. The first major thing is, of course, Saturn is moving into Pisces and will remain in Pisces for the most of the year, which shows the sort of dissolution of existing relationships, uh, silence before the war, if you may. Now, Jupiter will enter exaltation stage in Cancer, Rashi or zodiac sign around July of 2026, which again shows sort of the blessings from the Devguru Brahaspati as we speak. So that will be probably the most positive thing you are going to see across the 2026 year. Before we even get started, the larger picture is that it is like more like the change in status quo, not like a very aggressive year. Kind of challenges more than what we have seen in the last year are going to happen more likely this year. So let's get started. I would prefer to call this year as a time of global volatility and the building up to the path for the year 2020 2030 actually what is going to come up near future. Now, like I said, it is not like a crisis year, but it's going to show the existing cracks which were there in the system, their vulnerability, how demanding they were for a change, and why there was a need of change for all that matters. Whatever is going to survive in the year 2026 and beyond, it will become more evident and more powerful as the time passes by 2027, 28, and so on and so forth. Now, Rahu in Aquarius sign will be stronger in position. It is sort of his favorite, one of the favorite zodiacs, in fact, the favorite zodiac for him. So it will be accelerating a lot of changes, a lot of advancements in technology, especially with the AI that you see. A lot of money will be poured in, and there could be dramatic discoveries across this year, especially around July or mostly November of 2026, where you may see something which was never heard for before that. Ketu into Leo again denotes loss of power, change in status quo, and it kinds of weakens the leaders or authoritative figures across the globe. So there could be changes in regime as well. Saturn is going to be the most influential this year. Again, it is in Pisces, which dissolves existing systems, processes, and technology, and it kinds of leads up to a destructive stage where it will give the new beginning and new hope and new methods, especially into technology sector. By the blessings of Lord Jupiter, after July 2026, there could be positive news around it. Jupiter will basically ensure that there is no total destruction all across, kind of blessings that we always say. Now, the first biggest prediction that I have for today is the rise of AI and the global layoffs. I have been talking about it in my previous predictions as well. The layoffs that you see are going to increase. If you just Google layoffs, for example, you will always see one or other news every now and then, in fact, every day almost nowadays. It is shaping from the US as we speak and slowly headed to the rest of the world. US is going to slow down on the money printing, 38 trillion debt, whatever they have, and then the free buys or passing of dollars to the different countries, to the developing world, Asian countries or other beneficial countries as well, will slow down. This is going to trigger massive layoffs as we speak, so it is only going to rise, which is unfortunate. And then it is happening slowly as we speak. Even in the US, and US is pretty well known, but in India we are seeing the traction where people are getting laid off silently. There has been cases in public out there. You can go ahead and watch for whatever is happening with leading Indian IT companies and more on those lines. But this is going to increase, unfortunately. It is not being the AI being of help to you alone. It is kind of a tricky thing which they have posed across to humanity. It is more about AI quietly replacing all white collar jobs. It will start with some white collar jobs with the by way of like American way of saying things that it is nice, it's going to help you, and then it is made for humanity. Whoever is not following the path will kind of lose out on the benefits. Of course, there are benefits, there is time saving, there is advancement that is going to help, but the other side of the coin is absolutely being ignored today is the layoffs, the white collar job. The whole illusion of having a safety net in any kind of private job will go for a toss. I mean, where I get surprised personally is again that people are adopting AI fast. I get 70 to 78% in India, and more so to do with USA and other developed countries across the globe. It is increasing day by day, making its way into more popularized belief system, more popularized adoptions, if you will. But again, the faster the humanity works or adapts to this, the faster they are creating their own replacements. Especially it more to do with white collar jobs, and then I'm not sure people are actually happy about that. Now, the second biggest prediction I have is again about the deflation that is going to come up from the US in about 2.5 to 3 years from now and pushed across to the other economies of the globe. They have been known for pushing like the dollar power, printing dollars, and inflation push to other countries, if you will. But this time it's going to be less money printing with Donald Trump being in power there, and then slow and steady deflation, like the value of dollar coming down, and so it will again lead to less economic power, a, a lot cheaper products, and more of entrepreneurship. Like in Gen Z, we are seeing every third or fourth guy is basically a content creator or digital creator, if you will. But again, these things are going to be more. Entrepreneurship will become cheap and cheap. And it is helped by the fact that the more startups comes, the more all the big giants benefit by the way of AWS, Azure, or cloud, everything. Once you start up, you need to have a website, you need to have more of AI, you need to have more of system processes, which is ultimately run by the capitalist or 1% of the world, as you know. But this is going to be more competition in the market, less money power, and more entrepreneurship, which is good in the long run. That consumer will be um, getting, of course, cheaper products. But again, there's a question of UBS, that we call it universal basic income sort of thing, where when everything is very cheap and where there are more entrepreneurs maybe than demand itself, then who is going to pay for the goods or services that we have, and then that's where the whole deflation starts kicking in. The third biggest prediction, or the big prediction that I have, is about biology and infertility. We are The humankind or mankind is going to be disrupted a lot with robotics and AI, and I'm seeing a rise of the boyfriends and the girlfriends can be a robot and your companion, AI companion, if you will. But then all of this is going to rise as we see, and it is going to up to a stage where again there's a cross connection here, that human beings, by virtue of their lifestyle habits, food habits, adulterate food, and all that they have been eating, there is a lack of fertility that we can foresee, and then this will again lead to a human crisis or population crisis, I will, or let's say a tremendous amount of depopulation where it is at an irreplaceable level. A lot of countries are at irreplaceable level, like South Korea. I've given this in my previous year's prediction as well. So this is going to rise and rise as we speak. There will be, of course, the rise of IVF clinics, fertility treatment centers, the demand for surrogacy and motherhood in those sense. But again, those businesses will, of course, grow. And Rahu being very strong this 2026 years will again lead to more advancement in those technologies. My biggest fear is that by 2020, 2030, because of all this which is going around, with infertility, rise of IVF clinics, and then people probably choosing to not marry, choosing to not have kids, will lead to this depopulation, global issues, and up to a level of even having economic crisis in certain countries where the native population itself is not replaceable, and there is nobody to buy goods, services, or whatsoever. There will be a augmentation with robotics, AI that we speak of slowly 5 years down the line, maybe, but then again, who will consume those goods and services will be a question to ask. The fourth prediction that I have for today is the rise of digital currencies, or digital IDs. We are seeing some amount of distribution in the UK. India already have Aadhaar linked PAN cards. So this is the kind of digital IDs or identities that we see being rising, with an essence of course, there is a safety or security angle to it, but there is also a control over the population angle to it. So those things will keep rising as we speak of. There will be growing concerns around data privacy laws across the globe, and what is my take? How should I decide? And there's a thing called private cloud as we speak. So people may be going towards, in the longer run, maybe 3 years, 2 years from now, that I want to have my private cloud, and then safety. There is again a cyber security angle to all that you speak. So as we know, the photo is shareable, it goes into a cloud, and anyway we are buying a lot of that, and then with everybody having a selfie camera at their fingertips, the photography, the video, audio is all going to grow because of, and again, photos are something which is always going to demand more and more storage for the humanity. The fifth prediction that I have is about the hormonal health, or again the human limits. We've heard in Russia, I don't know if it was a hoax, but that the government says that you can, you know, be at office and plan to have kids, and you don't have to raise kids, and the government would kind of take over that. Japan is into depression as we speak. So I was saying Japan is into sort of depression as we speak. So all of that, the governments would invest more towards the human health, the physical health, the insurance that we call it, and then so much so that people may be getting awards by declining population of their choices that they make. And this is closely related with my next prediction about, I call it humanity 2.0, where there is a risk of, and it's actually going to be adopted. It is actually going to be adopted. The way I see that, people may be finding it fascinating to have a chip in their brain, like a chip on their body somewhere. So that's going to grow again, and then that will be like one of the signals and one of the ways then neurons could read your emotions and all of that. So there's a lot of R&D. There are a lot of companies doing that for Neuralink and all of that, to name a few. So all that will evolve as we speak, and this will be marketed as something cool. There are folks out there which may obviously adapt to it faster than other human beings, or ordinary human for that matter. So AI companions, a driverless car, a robot at your home, or a consumer robot that cooks for you, a sort of a like a girlfriend or a boyfriend situation where they might be a better fit than a lot of humans, because they will only talk sweeter things, they will go by your mood, and there are already a lot of models out there in public which are ready to do anything and everything for your benefits. The good news there is though that by 2026, or especially after November of 2026 or towards the end of 2026, we are going to see, it's already happening by the way, the rise of live events and experiences. People will be so done with this whole online thing that there could be rise of digital detoxification centers, if you will, and then the whole idea about people having to experience more of humanity, more of real social connections, live events, more of people to people, human to human interactions will actually rise more than ever. These businesses are also poised to grow. The next prediction is about the geopolitics. Again, the de-dollarization is a slow thing. So if there were three people moving away from the states last year, in 2026 there'll be five and more counting as we grow, because people are threatened by the monopoly, and then they are trying to find ways. The BRICS is one of the again forums which has been active, but nothing concrete has been seen so far, at least in the public. But again, there will be attempts to de-dollarize and move away from the power of an absolute power of the mighty dollar as we speak. Now, again, next prediction is about the NATO countries. There could be rising disagreements between them. There are chances of NATO being broken itself into smaller groups or pieces, at least one or two, if you may. And then China, on the other hand, will continue to be very active in the nearby neighboring countries, sort of irritating them with, the Philippines, the South China Sea, basically, as we call it, and then Taiwan, and continue showing its aggression. And they have a defined strategy for the next decade, as everybody knows. Now, before, like between March, April, May, India or the Indian subcontinent is going to see a very high volatile situation internally, a lot of changes here and there, unrest kind of situation, and there'll be an absolute check on immigration things, the Rohingya and Bangladeshi refugees that we see, and there might be some campaigns launched altogether to curb internal enemies and put a check to their balances. All of that is on the card, and then the social polarization will again keep rising as we speak. Now, my next prediction will be again, there's very high chances of the stock market seeing a correction this year, It is going to grow tremendously, but there could be sudden sharp thing around September 2026, and then the corrections will happen and people will lose a lot of money. Only the people who are like a long-term players and they have been there as a long-term investor would probably survive, and a lot of them will be washed away. Expect a rise in the natural gold, silver. Silver I expect to rise more in terms of percentage as compared to gold, but gold in the long run for the next 3 4 years is poised to grow totally. People will be concerned and focus about your health more and more, and then so much so that there'll be the whole there's going to be decline in the packaged food industry, the processed food, the palm oil things and all of that. It will happen across the globe at a blazing speed as we speak, and there'll be more and more videos and things available online for people to witness. With Israel and the problems in the Middle East would continue, Israel might take a soft approach after July 2026, and the Syria and then other Gaza problems that we speak of will continue to remain as it is. Now, the religious conflicts that we are seeing, the caliphate and the rise of other things within the countries, and all the videos that you're seeing on social media will continue to rise. I see a prominent rise of the right wing across the globe. So again, there's a good news that there'll be sense of awareness, but the bad news or not so great news I would say is there could be targeted campaigns against minorities or targeted campaigns against immigrants, mostly in the Western world. So the US, Canada, for instance, you could see very targeted video making campaigns. People encouraged to make small videos about Indians being there and not being in the line and not being like a nice citizen, all of that, for instance. And there could be similar things in other countries as well, but I'm talking about most of the Western worlds where it will be organized, well funded, and well amplified on social media. So there's a risk of rise of the right wing, which is good and ugly both at the same time. But again, I would suggest any NRIs or people who are new immigrants into a different country to be very careful and watchful of what's going to happen, what's coming in their way, and accordingly proceed with caution. Again, to summarize all my predictions, I think 7, 8, 9, whatever I did is again, this was 2025 is just a trailer. 2026 is going to be more challenging and tough times ahead, and it is basically building up to a stage of a sort of full-scale war or world war that we call it by 2031 or 2032. All of the great developments and significant milestones and developments will start happening from 2027 as I speak. So prepare accordingly. Astrology is, we call it like a jyotish. It is like a darkness and or a torchlight in the darkness, and it's just meant to give you directional strength, or meant to give you direction in life. I hope you like this video. I wish you a very happy new year and all the very best for 2026. Namaskar.